What's going on, guys? Dave Mate from yerbamateland.com, and today we are talking about another really cool yerba mate. This one's called Sara. Just like most gaucho mates, this mate was grown in southern Brazil for the Uruguayan markets. As of now, Uruguay does not grow their own mate. Most of their land is focused on cattle production and paper production, growing certain trees to produce pulp. So they actually entrust Brazilians to grow their yerba mate. The Brazilians have the land, they have the climate, and they have the resources to do that. So Sara Tradicional is a very nice yerba mate. I would say that it's somewhere in between Canarias, traditional Canarias, Del Salvador, and Pipore. Why is that? Because you're going to get all the maltiness that you would get from Canarias. You're going to receive that sort of tartness, that astringency that you get from Del Salvador, that sort of green tea aspect. And from Pipore, you're going to get the sweetness from it. This mate is a good example of all three of those sherbas combined. Let's give it a shot. For those of you guys that like Canarias and Baldo, Galaxy, Del Salvador, Sara would be a nice little addition to your library. Nice frothy bubbles right here, signifying good strength of saponin compounds. The saponins are responsible for all sorts of health properties, which I've spoken about in my other videos. But suffice it to say, saponins are really good for your body. Anytime you see these foams right here, you know that it's a high potency yerba mate. This mate is from the Iguazu Fall Valley on the border of Brazil and Argentina. I like this mate. In some ways, I actually prefer it to Canarias because I like the fact that the sweetness comes through with this yerba mate. Now, this mate has an interesting cut. My theory is that the reason why this mate, apart from the soil factors, the growing conditions, what have you, the reason why I believe that it's sweeter than the other mates is because of the physics that's going on here. This mate, for a gaucho mate, actually has a lot of medium-sized leaves, or hojas, as you would say in Spanish. Some companies just make it pure powder or mostly powder, which is an entirely different philosophy. I have nothing against that. We actually produce something similar to that, Galaxy, on circleofdrink.com. But this mate, for gaucho mate, is interesting because it does rely a lot on larger particles here, larger leaves, which allows the sweetness coming from these little guys, these palos, to actually travel through the gourd more readily. It's sort of like a transportation system. There needs to be space, there needs to be room. It can't just be totally dense, totally a brick, like as you see with Shimahao yerba mates, which is something totally different. But with a mate like this, the sweetness is going to be able to carry through, basically travel through the gourd from the bottom to the top. So let's compare the actual cuts to some other gaucho varieties, which will give you an idea. Let me just pour another gourd right here for myself. Beautiful sherba right there. Alright, so as you have already seen, we have Sara Traditional. Let's do a couple side-by-sides. Here we have Canarias, Traditional Canarias. Now Canarias, I don't know how well you can see, but it has a different hue to it. This is more of a, almost like has more of a lime green shade to it. This one I would say has a darker green shade to it. This tastes like it has more chlorophyll. It definitely tastes greener than Canadius. It has more sharper tones, that sort of, strong green tea aspect. Now, if you notice, let's compare the situations here. Sara definitely has more of these twigs. It definitely has more Apollos. Significantly more, I would say. If you look over here on Canadius, there's hardly any Apollos here. There are some tiny ones, here and there. But if you compare that to Sara Traditional, you're going to see a lot more Apollo situations. The Apollos actually have the sweet compounds that balance the mate. And they actually, supposedly, as some scientists have said, have higher amounts of theobromine. Theobromine is the compound that actually makes you feel good, feel happy. Now, let's also throw in the mix here Del Sabador. So over here, we have Del Sabador. And I'm not surprised that Del Sabador and Sara Traditional actually have some similarities. Del Sabador definitely has more of these twigs, chopped up Apollos, but interestingly enough, it's not as sweet, I would say, as Sara. Sara has a little sweetness on the kick. So I don't know if it's because of the different areas where it's produced. I'm sure that it has an effect on the mate. And even with Del Sabador, you're going to get a different color. Del Sabador is a little bit lighter, has more of a uniform cut. Definitely a lot more splinter Apollos. These little tiny Apollos here, little guys here. Del Sabador, it does have sweetness, maltiness to it. It does share similar characteristics as Sara Traditional. I would say that this is more green tea tasting. It has more of a greeny, herbaceous, strong green tea aspect going on. Sara, a little bit less so. I would say this is sort of the line between Canadius and Del Sabador. I really like this cut. It's very interesting. It's slightly different than all the other Gaucho cuts. Good combination of powder. Good combination of not only large hojas, large leaves, but also tiny leaves too, as you can see in there. And then we have Canadius, which is a little bit different too. Different hue, different color. It's actually more yellow, I would say. This one's more yellow. Sara Traditional is greener. I would say it has a little bit slightly greener hue to it. And Del Sabador is, because of the high inclusion of Apollos, it just makes for a whiter, sort of lighter hue to it. Definitely shares that same yellow component. But this gives you an idea of what Gaucho mates are really about. These three brands right here, Sara Traditional, Canadius, and Del Sabador. I know from this video you might be saying, well, they all look the same. But really, these mates are not the same. They taste markedly different. They have different components. They were grown in different areas, different farms. And all those factors produce a different tasting Gaucho variety. This is like wine, folks. This is like cheese. This is like olive oil. This is like whiskey. This is like cigars, This is like gourmet coffee. This is like gourmet kombucha. Gourmet green tea, black tea, oolong, what have you. The same situation applies for yerba mate. There's so many varietals grown in so many different conditions. Though, yes, mate is only focused, primarily grown in 3 countries. I believe that it could grow in many more countries, just nobody has done it yet. But that's another story. So, Sara Traditional, very nice yerba mate. I can't complain. Is this the sort of mate I would drink every single day? No. This is the sort of mate, I drink once in a while. As some of you guys know already, I'm partial on the Argentine yerba mates, things like Mission, Cruz de Malta, Nobleza Gaucha. But if you're trying to deviate from those sort of Argentinian mates, even American mates like Guayaquil, Mate Factor, Eco Teas, if you want something to really surprise your palate, kind of wake up your palate and taste something you've never tasted before, I would recommend Sara Traditional as a very strong contender in the Gaucho Mate arena. So give it a shot, guys. I'm going to say that this mate is it's a light, medium bodied, definitely medium bodied, leaning towards the lighter side. It's a strong mate in terms of flavors. It has strong flavors, but I would say the effects of this mate, similar to Canaria Serrana, even Canaries in general, aren't very, over the top. They're not over the top. They're not going to get the crazy rush like you get from Rosa Mate. This is a different situation with this mate. It's just really calming. It has that floral taste on the back end. On the front end, you're going to taste that maltiness, which is consistent with all gaucho mates. But this one, you're also going to get the additional benefit of the sweetness. Sort of like a graham cracker situation, cinnamon situation. Very subtle, but it's there. Take your time, play with this mate. Sara Traditional, very nice yerba mate. It's not super popular in terms of, outside of the Southern Cone, outside of Uruguay. So if you do come across it, I definitely recommend picking up a pack of this and trying it. We do supply it at yerbamateland.com for all your yerba mate needs, where we sell a lot of different popular brands of yerba mate. So, thanks again, guys. This is Dave Mate for another yerba mate review. I'm just glad to be sharing this information with you. I hope that you continue your yerba mate journey, continue this amazing adventure of tasting all these different varieties. Have fun with it, guys. Mate is just something that you drink, you relax, you do anything that you need to do throughout the day. Keeps you going, keeps you uplifted. No crashing effects like coffee. Thanks a lot, guys. Check me out at yerbamateland.com and find one of our groups on Facebook. Just type in Yerba Mate Land on Facebook or Circle of Drink, and you'll find us. Thanks a lot, guys. Salud. Peace.